Okay, so guys, Mike Tyson fights Roy Jones Jr. in a aging man's exhibition match. Two legends, pioneers of boxing. So this is the evolution of Mike Tyson from his first fight until his exhibition fight, and it's something to behold. Let's look at the physical transformation of Mike Tyson from 18 to 54. Over 35 years ago, on March 9th, 1985, Mike Tyson had his first pro fight at 18 years old against Hector Mercedes. He would knock him out in the first round rather fast, and we get to see a young teen Mike Tyson who had already been making waves in amateur and Olympic boxing before this. He would fight 4 more times as an 18-year-old, but then would go on an absolute tear at 19. Here is Tyson's last fight at 19 years old against William Hosea, 19 years and 363 days old to be exact. He would have 17 fights as a 19-year-old. He would have breaks between fights as short as 8 days, with the vast majority being between 2 and 3 weeks or less. Tyson would fight 7 times at 20 years old. This is the year he would face Trevor Berbick for the WC heavyweight title and win. He won with a second round TKO. On May 30th, 1987, he would fight Pinklin Thomas at 20 years, 334 days, and he would win by 6th round TKO, defending his WBA and WBC heavyweight titles. As you can see, he was becoming more physical and soon would be entering part of his peak as a physical boxer. Tyson would fight 5 times as a 21-year-old, but during this time he would add the IBA heavyweight belt and defend his WBC and WBA belts multiple times. His last fight at 21 was a KO in the first round of Michael Spinks, where he won the ring heavyweight title. It would take nearly a whole year for Tyson to fight again, as he only fought 1 time at 22 years of age, and this time against Frank Bruno, defending all of his previous belts with a 5th round TKO. A few months later, in his first fight at 23, Tyson would fight Carl Williams, winning the first round by TKO. Six months later, Tyson would face Buster Douglas in the now infamous fight, getting knocked out in the 10th round in Tokyo at the Tokyo Dome. He lost his WBA, WBC, IBF, and heavyweight belts. 4 months later, in his last fight at 23, Tyson would face Henry Tillman, winning swiftly with a first round TKO. Next, at 24 years of age, Tyson would compete 3 times with a double fight against Donovan Ruddock. He would win the fights respectively with a TKO and unanimous decision. There is a 5-year gap in Mike Tyson's career from 24 to 29 years of age, as he went to prison for some incredibly serious charges. Please look them up, as it should not be glossed over in his history. Upon being released from prison on parole, Tyson would fight 3 times at 29 years old. His final fight at 29 would be a rematch against Frank Bruno, who he TKO'd in the 3rd round this time. He won back the WBC heavyweight title. "30 years old for Mike Tyson was characterized by his 2 fights with Evander Holyfield and the ear incident that is now infamous in sports history. In his first fight, he was TKO'd in the 11th round, and in the second fight, he was DQ'd for biting a chunk of Holyfield's ear off. After this, he would fight 10 more times from 1999 to 2005 with various degrees of success, but clearly Mike Tyson had passed his prime and struggled quite a bit with various opponents. At 33 years old and 360 days, he would fight Lou Saravise and win by first round TKO, only a few days before his 34th birthday. At 35 years old and 343 days, nearly 36, in 2002 he would face Lennox Lewis It would be one of his last hurrahs, losing by KO in the 8th round. Mike Tyson's final fight would come against Kevin McBride when he was nearly 39 years of age. At 38 years and 346 days old, he would lose in a referee stoppage in 2005. So, 15 years later, he will have an exhibition match against fellow retired legend Roy Jones Jr. And he's jacked. It's clear the many years after all the issues that plagued Tyson at the end of his career seem to have faded as he's matured. At 54, obviously, he isn't the 25-year-old he once was, but he can put it all together as good as any 50-year-old man can. What do you think of the physical transformation of Mike Tyson? And what do you think of his chances this weekend against Roy Jones Jr.?